Thank you for staying tuned to 30 Minutes with Edmond Safari. And like I promised, we are here having a sit-down conversation with my man, Jackson Kaguri. Now, Jackson.
Yes, sir.
Earlier on, you were telling me about the American dream. And then your siblings pass on.
Yes.
The two of them. Is that the time you started to believe that you have to come back home and do something about it?
You know, when you grow up in these circumstances, there's always something tugging on you. You see a man beating a wife, you wonder what you can do about. You see a kid dropping out of school, you wonder what you're about, or what you can do about it. But really, the turning point was that my brother is dying, my sister is dead, I have a degree, I have a job, I can make a difference. So now, instead of going and find a job and live American dream, I decided to come and give back to the community that made me the man I became.
And what was that you gave back?
What I knew that would change somebody's life, which is education.
Education.
I knew as a kid I had left the village because of education. I knew I had gone to Kampala the first time going to school. So I wanted to create mini Jacksons, kind of in a selfish way, thinking if this worked for me, it can work for somebody else.
True.
And it has.
Now, I'm interested in knowing, you have chosen to come back.
Yes.
Definitely, for such a project, you need some money. How did you start?
So I had saved $5,000 to buy a house in America.
Your house?
My own house. I wanted to live an American dream. I had everything. I am a planner, Safari. I plan 10 years ahead. I plan 20 years ahead. I'm always looking at what I can do. So I had planned, I had already built a small house for my parents. I knew now I have to buy a house so I don't have to continue renting. And so the $5,000 I had saved to buy a house was the money I brought here in the village and bought an acre of land and started on building 2 classrooms. But I had to come to the village and consult with the elders, talk to the teachers who taught me. If we provide education, we'd make a difference. Everyone was in agreement. Every grandmother I talked to wanted their children to go to school, but they didn't have money for it. They wanted them to have a uniform, they didn't have money for it. They wanted them to have lunch, they didn't have money for it. So I promised we can do education together. You, the management committee on the ground, me in America, I can send my little money through my friend in Kampala, who was my classmate, an accountant, Sempa, who is now the CPA, chief accountant for the organization, through my sister, who I trusted she could really use the money, through another young man I had educated, who now runs big tours. Those were the 3 people I would send my money through Western Union. I would get the money, come buy bricks, and start digging and put up the school. The dream of Nyaka all started right here. This classroom, this door, and this classroom right here were the 2 original classrooms. Started building in 2001, but opened it in 2003, as you can see. At the time, it was opened by Honorable Minister Professor Mondoka Gonyera on January 2nd, 2003. And as always, we do all this for our children's sake.
Now, you're putting up a school.
Yes, sir.
Certainly, I'm sure it is for free.
Yes.
Were you never overwhelmed by the magnitude of children or parents of grannies asking or seeking for support? I know you wanted to help, but were you never overwhelmed by that kind of magnitude?
Yes, I was overwhelmed, and I'm still overwhelmed today. But one thing was for sure, I used this metaphor everyone talks about of the starfish. I had read the story of starfish in the novel, where this young man was at the ocean picking starfish that had been swept at the edge. They don't have water, they are dying, and he's throwing them in the ocean. And somebody came and said, "Why are you even bothering? They're all going to die." And he threw one in the ocean and said, "That one won't die." I knew even if I change one person's life, it would be worth the cause.
Now, you begin building this school. I need to know those first challenges you faced or you endured then.
First was my father, who you will meet. My father told me when I told him I was going to build a school, that's the waste of time. You should not even consider it. How could you even want to build a school for free? doubt.
Yes.
Don't do it. If I was a kid who listened to their father so humble, Nyaka would not be there. I refused because I was always stubborn, going for what can happen. Then there was the community. No, Jackson just wants to get a political appointment. He wants to be an MP. He's just throwing on a small school. There were challenges of money. People always start with money, but money was not my biggest issue. My biggest issue was to find people who will believe in the vision, work with me so we can do it. Because I knew I couldn't do it while living in America when the school is in Nyakaja's village.
And you get a time and you feel you are getting overwhelmed.
Yes, sir.
And then you resign your job and do Nyaka AIDS Orphan Center project full time.
Yes.
Were you never worried, or even your family ever getting worried that you're losing it, losing focus?
Yes, I have. And what you need to know, in between starting in Nyaka school to resigning my job in America, I had gotten married. I had a wife, you will see it in my book, who is now an ex-wife. Actually, she also got to a point where I said, why are you giving yourself to this project so much? You need to stay here, live American dream, bring your parents here. And as a result, now we are not even married.
Wow.
I had to remarry a woman who now believes in the
project.
vision, no longer Tabitha. Wonderful. She even would move here in a minute. So there were many worries, and some of those worries became a reality. Because when you are married to somebody and you have started doing something together and then she leaves you because of that, it's kind of giving you a choice. You either do that or you keep me.
And why?
I kept Nyaka.
You kept Nyaka. I was about to ask you, you were losing your relationship.
Yes.
And then there's Nyaka, a long-term project.
And there's a job also.
And there's a job.
Yeah.
I would certainly, possibly, if I was in your shoes, possibly, stop that project. You chose Nyaka.
Yeah.
And then later you author 2 books.
4.
For now.
Yes.
And tell me about them.
So when I started doing what we do with Nyaka, number one, when I would go in the classrooms, I would find kids are reading books. Cinderella, Things Fall Apart. None of the kids were picking a story that is local. And then when I went deeper, there were no actual Kanungu authors. They didn't have any Kanungu authors to read. The ones who had written books and had PhDs had written dissertations. So I said, since I was born in this village, these kids know me. But now they are thinking God just dropped me from heaven to help them. They didn't know my story. So I decided to write for them. I wrote my first book, which became an international bestseller, for the children here. I wanted them to see Jackson falling from a tree, going to the hospital where they go. I wanted them to see Jackson getting a spanking, being spanked by his father. I wanted to see Jackson disobeying. I wanted
Real
them
Jackson.
Yeah, they wanted to see them walking on feet and going to school and failing a class and repeating a class. I wanted them to see that, put a human face. So that was my first book. And fascinating, they see their own stories. Then I realized actually that book was like P6, P7 level. Then I went deep and said, the babies also need to see their pictures, living with Mukaka. They read all these Clifford cartoons, but they don't see themselves. So I wrote for them, Sitwe goes to school, so they can see themselves in their uniform, living in Mukaka, sleeping under the bed, on a mat. Then I said, these children also have a component in their lives, which is fear of God and pray to God. So I wrote another one, Sitwe goes to worship, so they can strengthen their faith and know that Jackson does not do this because he has power or money. It's God's power that's going through people to help them. And I said, you know what? The girls need to see themselves too. So I wrote another one about Patience Goes to Water, because we have a clean water system that serves 50,000 people. So I did one that also highlights the dangers girls face when they go to fetch water. They get raped, they get beaten, The brave girl I wrote in the book actually takes the whole 20-liter jerrycan and throws it on this monster guy who was following him. Power to the girls.
Now, you started Nyaka AIDS Orphan Project in 2001.
It was
15 years now, 16 years later. I'm interested in knowing the first people you took on.
Yes.
Where are they?
So we started in 2001, 15 years ago. That makes Nyaka a teenager. Yes. They can have a baby now.
Yes.
And indeed, we have had babies. So we started with 30 students in 2001, orphaned, left behind, kids nobody thought could do anything. And if you hang on around here, you will see some of those in vacation because they are now in university. We have a kid who, when they entered the school, said, Dad died of HIV/AIDS, I want to be a doctor. And today, Safari, that boy is at KIU, Bushenyi, in first year medical school.
Wow. Wearing
a white coat with his name right here. Wow. From the village. We have a kid who is in law school, a girl who is in law school. We have a girl who took an exam for scholarship and ended up at Vancouver Island University in Canada.
Wow.
And then several teachers, several businessmen. My whole dream was to create a multiplier effect in this village. And in 2 years, these kids are going to walk out of university and they will continue changing, and I'll just retire and watch them succeed.
I notice one cardinal message stands in whatever you support: education.
Yes, sir.
Why?
It's the greatest asset anybody can ever give to you.
And you systematically look at these projects you're working on. You are systematically one challenge at a time.
Yes, and I will explain that to you. So we started a school, education. United Nations has gone in and said education for all in Millennium Goals. Failed. 2015 is when they thought they would educate every child in the world. Phew, total failure. Now they are goals now, UN goals, 2030. The component that continues to make many things fail is because we isolate problems. In Kampala, you can say education for all because kids are going to go back home and eat a meal. In this village, when you say education alone, it's not going to work. The kid needs food, the kid needs medication, the kid needs sanitary products when the girl goes in puberty. So Nyaka actually uses a holistic approach. We give kids education, we give them health care, we give them food, 2 meals a day, we make sure they have where to sleep with grandmothers' houses until they get in secondary, then they go in the dormitories, and when they finish, we make sure they find employment. 5 basic needs.
Thank you, Jackson. And when we'll be right back the following week, we shall continue this conversation.
Thank you.
We have heard Jackson mention the pride he has for education. He says that education made him. And when he went to America, as he was beginning to live the American dream, he chose to return back and do something for the community. And Jackson's story has been so inspiring that even CNN looked out for him in 2012 and awarded him a CNN Hero of the Year. Of course, he has won so many other awards where we're going to be learning more about him the following week. So stay tuned with your coach, Edmond Safari. Till next time. Welcome to 30 Minutes with Edmond Safari. Now, how would you want to be remembered? The bad way or the good way? Now, in this special edition, I speak to an extraordinary gentleman who is transforming the communities of Nyaka in Kanungu district. You could learn 1 or 2 things as I speak to him. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Edmond. Welcome to Nyaka.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And it's a pleasure meeting you in person.
The same here. Thank you for coming.
Now, who is Jackson Kaguri?
Oh my, Jackson Kaguri is a young man, boy from Nyakajezi village, who grew up in Nyakajezi village. Went to school, Makerere primary school here, Makerere, off to Columbia University in America.
The fact that you went to Columbia University.
Yes.
But I'm interested in knowing your educational background in a seemingly very difficult situation.
So I was born in a village not far away from here, 1 mile from here, in Nyakajezi village. Nyakajezi village was one of the poorest areas you could be born in. One of 5 children. Myself, I'm the youngest child. 4 other children. Dad was poor, never had a job, grew his own food with mom, but they were determined to send all 5 of us to school.
Great.
We were so poor, Edmond, that my dad would never afford to buy a pencil for all 5 children. So he would buy 1 pencil and we would line up in front of our house and Dad would break a pencil, 1 for Jackson, 1 for Faida, 1 for Christine, 1 for Babazi, and the oldest boy always got 1 with a razor.
Wow.
1 pencil, 5 children. He sold chickens, he sold goats, he sold cows, he sold land so he can get education. I walked to school, we changed schools, I went secondary schools. I remember they would send us from one school because we don't have school fees, and Dad would send us to another school so we can get education.
Wow.
Then at 9 years old, I fell from a tree and injured myself. Spent 6 months in a hospital, but came back and still managed to work hard, determined to succeed. I knew one thing as a kid, that to break the cycle of poverty in my family, I had to go to school.
And indeed you went to school.
Indeed I did.
And then you go to Makerere University.
Yes, I finished here, went in the same district to high school, passed and went to Makerere University, studied social sciences. In my second year, I got an opportunity to study human rights,
Okay.
and ended up writing a paper on children and women rights,
Yes.
which paper was accepted in Columbia University, and Columbia University gave me a scholarship to go and study masters in international human rights law.
When was that?
That was 1994,
1994.
before you were born.
Ah, no, I was born already. So, you get this scholarship, go
Yes.
to Columbia University in America. Certainly, you're starting to live the American dream.
Yes, exactly.
I want to know, you're a young boy from Nyaka to Kampala Makerere University,
Yes.
now in Columbia University. How did it make you feel, a local Ugandan, a local boy from Nyaka
Yes,
in America?
yes. So here I am, coming from a village, a boy who had never been in a car, traveling to Kampala with 1 pair of clothes and no shoes. At the university I had no pair of shoes.
Wow.
And now I'm at Makerere and I got this scholarship. Now I'm going to New York. Columbia University is in New York. And I arrive in New York in middle of winter. I don't know what snow is about. I don't even have a coat and a short sleeved and 1 rupande, those bare bottom and sandals in winter. So here I am at Columbia University in New York. I didn't even know how big Columbia University was, but I was feeling lucky. My mom and my parents have always been Christian people, and mom always believed nothing is impossible. So whenever I doubted and started, oh, who am I would remember that we serve a God who will serve us no matter what.
And of course, you do your master's.
Yes, I finished. When I was at Columbia University, actually, that's when my brother, the oldest boy who took all pencils with erasers, died because of HIV/AIDS. So my brother passes away. In 97, my sister also passed away.
The following year.
Yeah, but the turning point for me was when my brother passed away. I am at Columbia University. My brother is in Jinja, in Uganda. He dies of HIV/AIDS, and he has orphans. his own children that needs an uncle to care for them. Otherwise, all those children will have ended up in a grandparent's house. My sister dies, he leaves a son who was actually infected with HIV/AIDS.
The son as well.
Yes. So that's when really it occurred to me, I can go and live American dream, I can go work for United Nations, but home is calling me. Each time I would come here, I would try to give pencils because I knew what pencils had done for me to kids. But then I said, you know, if I put up a school, we'll help more children, more than just giving pencils. That's how Nyaka was born.
And the conversation begins now.
Yes, sir.
Hold it. And when we'll be back after that commercial break, we're going to have a sit-down interview with Jackson Kaguri, the man.